Take a look at this portrait. Who is this wrinkled, hairless, and unremarkable old man? This is the richest man in human history. No family has ever amassed wealth as quickly as his. He often said that the secret to his success was prioritizing God first, family second, and career third. He is considered the architect of the modern world and the founder of a secret global government. At least today, I will give you some very strong evidence in favor of this theory. Some cursed him as a devil, while others praised him as a generous philanthropist. His family name became legendary. That name is Rockefeller. As a child, he dreamed of immense wealth and eternal life. His father sold oil as a miracle cure, and Rockefeller ended up supplying the world with oil. By age 45, he was the richest man in the world. He crushed competitors and left them bankrupt. Yet he donated billions to the poor. Some believe his family secretly rules the world. This is a new project where we explore the lives of great figures. Today we'll talk about how to become unimaginably wealthy and fulfill all your dreams, even when it seems the world is against you. John Rockefeller became the first oil tycoon in history and remains the largest to this day. Looking at his life, it's hard not to wonder, how on earth did he do it? We'll delve into the elements of Rockefeller's success. What kind of mindset does it take to become rich? Dreams, the driving force of life. Dreams are the most important thing in life. A person dies when they stop dreaming, Rockefeller believed. So let's dig into his mind and discover what he dreamed about. At the end, I'll share some of Rockefeller's life rules that will undoubtedly help you in your own journey. Childhood and early aspirations. Rockefeller had two main dreams, both quite childlike: to live forever and to become fabulously rich. Specifically, he aimed to earn $100,000, a sum equivalent to nearly $2 million today, and live to be 100 years old. In the end, he far surpassed one goal, but fell just shy of the other. Rockefeller was born 185 years ago, in 1839, as the second of 6 children. His family lived in a small town near New York City. Ironically, oil, which later brought him billions, seeped into his life almost immediately. His mother, Eliza Davidson, was a devout Christian of Scottish descent. Strong-willed and responsible, she managed the home and family. In contrast, his father, William Rockefeller, was a charming rogue, a swindler who scraped by with odd jobs. At one point, William decided the path to easy money was through selling fake medicines. He concocted these fraudulent remedies and sold them to unsuspecting Americans. One of these so-called cancer cures contained raw, unrefined oil. Back then, oil existed, but no one knew what to do with it. Cars hadn't been invented yet, and oil refining wasn't developed. Crude oil often seeped to the surface and was used as a cure-all, treating everything from coughs to cholera and hemorrhoids. Popular at the time was a remedy called petroleum elixir, essentially a bottle of oil to be consumed in teaspoonfuls. Survival wasn't guaranteed, but to be fair, crude oil does contain trace medicinal properties. It's even present in small doses in aspirin. The American oil boom began when Rockefeller was 19 years old, as kerosene production took off. But let's return to his father. William didn't achieve much success in business, but instilled a commercial mindset in his children. He paid them for their accomplishments and chores. For example, cleaning the house earned 5 cents, while chopping wood earned 15. To the children, money became a measure of their father's affection. The more you earned, the more valuable and loved you were. For a child, a father represents authority and care. This deeply affected Rockefeller's psyche. Money equaled love, care, and power. These lessons combined with a personal trauma. When Rockefeller was 14, his father abandoned the family and fled to Canada, marrying another woman without divorcing the first. But this was the Wild West of the 19th century, where laws and official documents were sparse, the first and last. Job. At 16, Rockefeller became the man of the house. He trained as a bookkeeper without attending college, completing a short course instead. Even as a boy, he demonstrated a distinctive business acumen. He lent money to friends with interest, bought candy in bulk and sold it individually, and raised wild turkeys to sell at a premium as farm-raised. By 16, he decided to get a job. After knocking on the doors of 100 firms, he finally landed a position at a small accounting firm. Rockefeller proved his worth, arriving at 7 a.m. and leaving at 9 p.m., skipping breaks and socializing. He He refrained from drinking, avoided parties, and danced little. For Rockefeller, the key to success was focused, relentless effort. Starting as an assistant bookkeeper earning 50 cents a day, he quickly rose in rank. By 19, he was offered a managerial position with a salary of $600 a year, equivalent to $50,000 a month today. But Rockefeller declined. He realized that working for someone else would never make him truly wealthy. The oil boom. In 1859, the American oil boom began. Edwin Drake, a businessman, discovered a way to extract oil from wells, revolutionizing the market. Oil was refined into kerosene, which fueled lamps, making it a hot commodity. Hundreds of small companies sprang up to pump oil, and this boom had an unexpected effect. It saved whales. Before kerosene, lamps were fueled with whale oil, and the hunting had decimated the whale population. Drake, however, never profited from his discovery. His company went bankrupt, and he died penniless. Meanwhile, Rockefeller reaped all the rewards. The path to wealth. Rockefeller's journey to wealth was methodical. He didn't invent anything new, but he worked systematically. In fact, he created systems wherever he could. All those corporations, strategies, maybe they were his way of simulating love and family, a replacement for what he never had. This is why he was so passionate and determined to carry out his plans. John also built his own family like a business venture, calculated and for the long term. He was married to the same woman his entire life. How someone like Rockefeller, known for his hard expression, could experience passion or sincere emotions is hard to imagine. But he was loyal to his wife, and together they had 5 children. In his household, Rockefeller followed the same system of rewards for success as his father had. Good grades in school and chores were paid in cash, and John's only son, Rockefeller Jr., would eventually inherit his father's empire. Rockefeller didn't believe in luck. He only trusted in hard work. At 20, he and his classmate, Morris Clark, started a business selling everything from clothes to food. At first, Rockefeller worked as a junior partner in this firm. In 1861, the Civil War broke out in the U.S., and Rockefeller's company made huge profits supplying the Northern Army, those who would eventually win. Together with his partner, he opened an oil refinery where he took the next step. Instead of just refining oil into kerosene, which was what every small company did, he realized that the real money was in the refining process itself. He didn't just want to make kerosene, he wanted to produce paraffin, Vaseline, fuel oil, and more. In 1863, he and his colleague Clark brought in a talented chemist, Samuel Andrews, who created standards for high-quality kerosene and other products. They looked for ways to use byproducts. Gasoline became fuel. Some of the tar was used for road construction, and naphtha was sent to gas factories. They also sold lubricating oil, Vaseline, and paraffin for making candles. Other Cleveland oil refiners, in contrast, were wasteful. They dumped gasoline into the Cuyahoga River, discarded byproducts, and spilled oil all over the city. This approach led smaller companies to go bankrupt, and Rockefeller seized the opportunity to buy them out. To gain sole control, he pooled all his funds and bought out his partners. Then he began his expansion, purchasing 24 small refineries in Cleveland in a short time. Rockefeller didn't believe in compromises, especially in business. He believed that if there was a chance to get rid of a competitor, he would do so by any means necessary. He bribed transport companies for preferential shipping rates. He bought out some oil producers, intimidated others, and got what he wanted. His small company grew 24 times its size. Meanwhile, Rockefeller closely monitored the quality of the products, the best for the cheapest price. In 1885, John D. Rockefeller wrote to one of his partners, "We must always remember that we refine oil for the poor, and it must be cheap and good." As a result, millions of Americans lit their homes with Standard Oil kerosene for 1 cent an hour, making Rockefeller the wealthiest person in American history. His first partner, Morris Clark, said Rockefeller was methodical, attentive to details, and demanding of small things. If we were owed a cent, he wanted it. If the customer was owed a cent, he wanted them to get it. This precision irritated some debtors, but earned him the trust of many Cleveland businessmen. Standard Oil Company. In 1870, Rockefeller founded Standard Oil. The company spread its tentacles across the United States like an octopus. Within a year, Standard Oil controlled 4% of the oil production in the US, but that wasn't enough for Rockefeller. If he set his mind on something, he wanted it all, and he got it. By 1880, the company controlled 90% of the nation's oil. It had 20,000 wells and 100,000 employees. Every year, his wealth increased by $1 billion, which, in today's money, is $20 billion. It was unimaginable. By 40, Rockefeller was a billionaire, a monopolist, a philanthropist, and a tough man. But after gaining all the money, Rockefeller earned something else: immense hatred. The Mephistopheles of Cleveland, as he was called, was compared to the devil, with rumors that all his wealth came from the blood of the working class. This was the time in the US known as the Gilded Age. The irony here is that the Gilded Age wasn't a golden age of prosperity, but a time where beneath the glitter was corruption, crime, and oppression. To be fair though, all businessmen played dirty back then, and those who tried to be clean ended up broke. Hatred. A campaign against Rockefeller and his harsh business methods began in the newspapers. From the late 1880s, exposés started appearing in print. It damaged his reputation, but not much. Rockefeller shrugged it off and pressed on. However, two blows almost destroyed his empire. In 1885, oil prices crashed from 30 cents to 8 cents a barrel. There was just too much kerosene. The market was oversaturated. No one knew what to do with all the oil. It seemed that Rockefeller's downfall was inevitable, but he was saved by Henry Ford and the automobile boom, which created a sharp demand for gasoline, and oil prices began to rise again. To protect his company's image, Rockefeller retired at 57. He turned to philanthropy, trying to fix his reputation. He donated large sums to universities, churches, and hospitals, but the public saw it as a cheap PR stunt. To be fair, from an early age, he had been giving away a tenth of his earnings to those in need, seeing it as a fair payment for his success. Just when it seemed things had calmed down, another blow came from investigative journalist Ida Tarbell. Her father had owned a small oil company that Rockefeller had destroyed, and her actions were driven by revenge and her own sense of justice. In 1904, she published a book, The Story of Standard Oil, exposing all the hidden schemes and shady dealings of the businessman. It caught the attention of the government. 400 companies, 90,000 miles of pipelines, 10,000 railroad tank cars, 60 ocean tankers, 150 river crossings, and much more. At the end of the 19th century, Rockefeller was not just a businessman, he was a state within a state. He paid off enforcers, congressmen, and gangsters. Essentially, he controlled the industrial policy of the United States, and the government couldn't ignore it. Since the 1890s, monopoly laws had been in place in the US, and Ida Tarbell's book became the trigger for the government to take action. President Theodore Roosevelt vowed to crush Rockefeller. Faced with these challenges, Rockefeller suffered immense stress, and we can compare two of his photos, before and after. He began to lose his hair, eyelashes, and eyebrows, becoming almost demonic in appearance. Very, very, very rich, but still a demon. Rockefeller's new business system. In 1911, the courts ordered Rockefeller's monopoly to be dissolved and split into 34 companies. But Rockefeller wasn't ready to give up. He turned the situation to his advantage. In the end, this only made him richer as he retained his shares, and his companies started fighting among themselves, causing the stock prices to soar. Now, instead of one mega company, he owned a whole network of assets, many of which were officially not even under his name. This was Rockefeller's newly restructured business system. By the end of his life, Rockefeller had managed to repair his image as a bloodthirsty businessman, largely thanks to smart PR. He was advised not only to do charity work, but to make sure the cameras were there. From then on, he became known for publicly handing out money to the poor and generously tipping waiters. These donations, often accompanied by heartfelt words, became a sort of tradition and soon filled the front pages of newspapers. It was like a billionaire flash mob, possibly the first of its kind. In the eyes of the public, Rockefeller was no longer a villain, but a kind, quirky old man who loved children and street people. By the time he passed away, this sweet, quirky old man had accumulated a fortune that would be worth $500 billion today, 250 times more than he had ever dreamed of as a child. John Rockefeller died at 97, just 3 years short of his goal of living to 100. the Rockefeller family. Then the Rockefeller family entered the picture, and rumors of a secret world government started circulating. After all, those who control the money control the world. And there were some reasons for these rumors. For example, Rockefeller's son began building New York's Rockefeller Center in 1931, right in the middle of the Great Depression, when millions of people had nothing. People thought it would fail, but this bold move provided jobs for 75,000 people, and the building was completed. When World War II broke out, the Rockefeller family made even more money by selling fuel for tanks and airplanes. Conspiracy theorists believe the Rockefellers might have even sparked the war. After all, their bank J.P. Morgan financed Adolf Hitler to the tune of $11 billion, essentially helping him come to power. After the war, the Rockefellers funded the construction of the United Nations building. John D. Rockefeller Jr. donated land and $8.5 million for its headquarters. Also, the Rockefeller-owned Chase Manhattan Bank was the first American bank to open in the Soviet Union in 1972. At a grand dinner in Moscow's Metropole Hotel, David Rockefeller hosted a lavish spread, and Soviet officials devoured everything in minutes. David later reflected that communists, eager for freebies, didn't pose a real threat. In 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, David Rockefeller gifted $75 million to Mikhail Gorbachev to help open a charitable foundation. This raised suspicions that Gorbachev might have sold out the USSR for Rockefeller's money. The Rockefellers also founded the Bilderberg Group in 1954, an ultra-secret gathering of the wealthiest people in the world. David Rockefeller, John's grandson, chairs the club. Every year, business leaders and politicians from around the world meet to discuss important matters. Some believe that, behind closed doors, the Rockefellers decide who will become president and make key decisions for the planet. For instance, Bill Clinton, back in 1991, was just an unknown governor from Arkansas. But after attending a Bilderberg meeting, he suddenly became the U.S. president. Whether or not you believe this, it's clear that John Rockefeller's story didn't end with him. His wealth gave him a sense of love, support, and family, and his physical family continued his work. David Rockefeller, his grandson, lived through 6 heart transplants and, like his grandfather, reached 100, passing away at 102. 7 generations later, the family remains at the center of the world's financial elite. Epilogue. John Rockefeller didn't invent anything revolutionary, nor did he perform any heroic acts on his own. But he understood one thing. In the future, no one can succeed alone. A solitary genius always loses. That's why you need to create new working systems. In the 21st century, the concept of social family emerged. Groups of people moving through life together. Biological families take a back seat. They're not chosen. But your social family, friends, colleagues, neighbors, are your personal responsibility, and you can choose them. The more active your social family is, the more connections and opportunities you'll have, which leads to success, wealth, and happiness. It's a living network, a system that helps you grow and achieve your goals. In the mid-19th century, people didn't talk about this, but Rockefeller seemed to understand the key point. Properly designed and built systems are what make you rich and powerful. He thought strategically his entire life, creating systems and organizing scattered elements into working schemes that he spread like networks. In the end, those networks brought him and his family wealth and fame, and some say, real power over the world. The secret world government may not be sleeping, so remember that. Just kidding, just kidding. 6 rules from John Rockefeller. And now, as promised, here are John Rockefeller's 5 rules that helped him become rich. And who knows, maybe they'll help you too. Rule 1. Don't be afraid of big expenses, be afraid of small income. If you don't have money, start a business. If you have no money at all, start a business right now. Rule 2. Hang out with winners and optimists. A poor environment always drags you down. Change your environment. This is my advice from John Rockefeller. Rule 3. Persistence is the main rule of success. Remember, he was rejected by 100 companies. Persistence can overcome everything, even the laws of nature. 4. I'd rather get 1% of the efforts of 100 people than 100% of my own efforts. Rule 5. Money comes through other people. Network. Study the biographies and mindset of the richest people, like we're doing right now. That's the key to success. And remember, only passive income will bring you prosperity. 6. The most important. Rockefeller always said the best thing he did in life was making Jesus his savior and Laura Spellman his wife. He prayed daily in the morning and always took Sundays off. He calmly rocked his daughter to sleep in the evening, even though oil prices had dropped to record lows that day. While others panicked, Rockefeller trusted that God would help him endure. He knew how to give his problems to God and believed that God was always good to him. Rockefeller never lost his composure. This was one of the remarkable discoveries Alan Nevins made during his in-depth research on Rockefeller. In the 1930s, Nevins interviewed dozens of people who worked with Rockefeller and knew him closely. No one, whether family, friend, or foe, could recall a time when Rockefeller lost his temper or even seemed worried. He was always calm. I hope Rockefeller's story inspired you and made you think about something. But draw your own conclusions, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments whose story you'd like to hear next. For now, I and John Rockefeller wish you a great day.